This is a summit where the stakeholders come together to deliberate on the good of Nigeria. Our deliberation today is on Nigerian Police and policing, an X-ray of the image and performance of the men and women in uniform to whom we have entrusted the security of our lives and property. I'm Shala J. Let's start with a brief history of Nigerian Police.
Long before the 1901 colonization of Nigeria by Great Britain, Nigeria's first police unit had been established in 1820 with officers from the eastern part of Nigeria. The establishment of the Lagos Police followed in 1896. Then a similar force, which was called the Niger Coast Constabulary, was also formed in Calabar in 1894 under the newly formed Niger Coastal Protectorate. In the northern region, the Royal Niger Company set up the Royal Niger Company Constabulary in 1888. When the protectorates of both northern and southern Nigeria were proclaimed in the early 1900s, part of the Royal Niger Company Constabulary was also transformed to the Northern Nigeria Police, and part of the Niger Coastal Constabulary transformed to the Southern Nigeria Police. In 1930, the British colonial government of Nigeria merged the Southern Nigeria Police and the Northern Nigeria Police into the Federal Law Enforcement Agency, which adopted the name Nigeria Police. Presently, the department is headquartered in Louis Edet House in the Central District of Abuja, the capital of Federal Republic of Nigeria. Nigeria currently operates a federal government system similar to America, but she has failed to implement America's policing system that allows for federal and state police. Instead, she operates only one police agency controlled by the federal government under the governing jurisdiction of the Nigeria's Ministry of Interior. The chief executive of the Nigeria Police Force is titled Inspector General of Police, or IGP for short. 19 IGPs have occupied that seat since its inception in 1964, starting with Louis Edet from 1964 to 1966, to the current and 19th IGP, Ibrahim Idris, who was appointed in 2016 by the current president, Muhammadu Buhari. The structure provides for 7 divisions, which are headed by Deputy Inspectors General of Police, DIGPs. They are Operations Division, Admin and Finance, Welfare, Training, Works and Housing, Investigation, and the Communications Divisions. Each of the 36 states of the Federation has a police command headed by a Commissioner of Police, and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, also has a police command with its own commissioner, making it 37 police commissioners in the Federation. From few thousand membership at inception, the Nigeria Police has risen to the current 371,800 officers, and plans are in the works to increase to 650,000 officers. Police departments all over the world are regularly accused of corruption and brutality of citizens, and Nigeria Police is not an exception. From the late legend of Afrobeat music, Fela Anikulapo Kuti, to the more contemporary Two-Face Idibia, musicians have lent their voices through songs in the condemnation of Nigerian police corruption and brutality of citizens. The citizens' complaints about police abuse range from extortion to physical abuse and extrajudicial killings. The latest concerted public campaign against the police was executed in late 2017. It was targeted specifically against the Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigeria Police, which is popularly known as SARS. The campaign alleged that the members of SARS, which was established to protect the public from armed robbers, have themselves become armed robbers of the people with state-sponsored arms. The campaign was tagged End SARS, and it was a demand by a section of the society to scrap the SARS unit.
Personally, I've been harassed thrice by the SARS men. I'm a businessman that runs a company here in Lagos, in Nigeria. I'm an employer of labor. Yet they will harass us, they extort us.
The social media has been awash with public allegations of various criminal misconducts by the officers of the SARS. Let's listen to a random sampling on Nigerian streets, what Nigerians say about the conduct of the police officers.
Most of the kidnapping and armed robbery that is taking place in this state is by men of SARS.
We are telling them that they should stop this harassment against Nigerian youth.
Welcome back. With all the hula baloo going on about the Nigerian police, we have three guests in the studio, three gentlemen of note who are here to delve strictly on the subject of Nigerian police and policing. With us is a U.S. Army retired officer, Captain Bish Johnson. You're welcome.
Thank you.
He's a national defense and military strategist. Also with us is Mr. Lawrence Alobi, former commissioner of police here at the FCT. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me.
And a newspaper columnist and public affairs analyst, Mr. Majid Dahiru.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now, we don't need to say too much about so much about the Nigerian police that everybody doesn't know about. With all the craziness that has to do with what the police did or didn't do, we just want to go straight to the point. The perception of the Nigerian police today in Nigeria. Why don't we start with you, Majid? If you were to go out there to ask anybody about the image of the Nigerian police, what do you think comes to mind immediately?
Thank you very much. As a citizen myself, I do not even need to take an opinion of somebody else. From my own experience, well, the average attitude or mode of operation of the Nigerian police force has left a lot of image problem for the force as a whole. So much such that the public perception of the Nigerian police force is actually at its lowest at the moment. So talking about perception, yes, it is very low. There is lack of confidence in the police force. There is lack of trust in the police force between the police force and the public. And it's something that is a cause for concern. So much such that even internal security operations are supposed to be the core area of duty of the Nigerian police force has almost been taken over by defense forces. As I'm talking to you today, you have over 28 operations, military operations.
Around the country
in 28 states, which is like effectively usurping the duties, the core responsibility of the Nigerian police force. So I think that's a clear pointer to the fact that the public perception of the Nigerian police force is quite low.
Let's go to former police commissioner. I think you've been retired for 11 years, but from what I heard you say earlier, you're not tired.
No, I can't be tired.
You know, Nigerian police is being known to perform excellently whenever they are overseas, sent on missions abroad. What is creating a problem with their image in Nigeria? And because you've been there, let us into a little part that we've never thought we could go into. Just
Thank you very much. You see, Section 214 of the Constitution, 1999 Constitution, is establishing the Nigerian Police Force as the only police force of this country. Section 4 of the Police Act also stipulates the functions and duties of the Nigerian Police Force. You talk about image and image. It's like talk about perception. Perception determines attitude. And if you look at perception of Nigerian Police Force as a historical base, if you look at the evolution of the present Nigerian Police Force, how it evolved from the colonial era to the modern Nigerian Police Force. You see, when the colonial masters came on board, they established the constabulary force that was meant purely to defend British interests, Her Majesty's interests. And every effort was done to subjugate the people, to oppress the people, to subjugate them, to ensure the police at that time protect the interests of the British Empire. Not too long got independent. We got independent 1960, 66, the military came on board. And the military, during the colonial era, we had the colonial policing, which is abuse of human rights, because they were not, the police there were not the police that based on the people's need. It's not the people that policing by the people for the people and for the benefit of the people. They were imposed, the police that were forced on the people, not Nigerians who were just there to orientate them and train them to serve the needs of the people. We came on to thereafter we got the military era. Military ruled by decrees, laws that were not palatable to the citizens, and the police were not compelled to enforce such laws. And so the public, from the colonial era, the citizens saw the police as agents of the colonial masters. When we now snowball into the military era, the military came with their decrees. We now have militarized policing. Of course, that is countered by abuse of human rights, repressive policing, and the police were now oriented towards promoting human rights, defending human rights, and being people-oriented. Today we have democracy. You see, it has been proven in policing that the type of government a country determines the style of policing. That's why we have the colonial era, we had the colonized policing, military era, we have militarized policing. Today we ought to have democratic policing, which is policing of the people by the people for the benefit of the people, based on needs of the people's needs. That is participatory in nature and meant to meet the needs of the people. All along, the police are being organized by the government to meet the government's need to protect the regime protection, not interest of the citizens per se. And that now they saw the citizens saw the police as agent of government, anti the people, and so forth. And again, the police are being funded by who? By the government. And it's the government that determines what function the police should carry out, even though Section 4 of the Police Act stipulates the function of the Nigerian police force. The police is an arm of the executive arm of the government. It's an agency of government that is primarily made to maintain law and order, protect life and property, and ensure internal security of this country. So that negative perception started from the colonial era, when the colonial masters oppressed, subjugated the people, used the police to brutalize the people, like about human rights, the Enugu coal mine riot, and so forth. So the people saw the police as agents of the government, anti the people. That was the origin of that negative perception against the police.
Thanks for that historical perspective. You are wearing two hats. You have lived in the United States. America's democracy has a lot to, Nigerian democracy has a lot to do with copying the American democracy.
Of course.
Of course, America has its own problems now with the maltreatment of black people.
Correct.
By the white police.
Correct.
And even some black police too do maltreat the blacks.
Correct.
Now, you have seen what is going on in Nigeria. The question of the negative image of the Nigerian police has a lot to do with so many factors. Help us understand how some of these factors currently affect not only their negative image, but also kind of make people very cynical about the reformations that the various inspector generals of police try to institute.
I can't agree more with most of the stuff that Commissioner has said. A lot of the problems that Nigerian police has today, a bulk chunk of it is internal, but you still have quite huge challenges that are beyond their control. Now, if you look at the ways, I was reading the prompter and I saw how many inspector generals of police we've had so far. That is quite a lot.
19.
19 of them.
Right.
So when you have a situation where the president appoints and fires inspector general of police, he makes the police
A tool of the government.
Correct. So the police in itself is seen as an appendage of the executive branch of government controlled by the president himself. So that it's difficult for the police to be independent. And when the police is independent, it will always work towards whatever the state wants to accomplish. I've seen Nigerian police to be more focused on the protection of the state rather than the security of the people. And Commissioner alluded to it when he was equally talking. So a lot of all those things, coupled with issue of funding, coupled with issue of undermining, coupled with issue of undertraining, coupled with issue of corruption, misappropriation, outright embezzlement, diversion of funds, although they are not properly funded. Because if you look at the budget of, say, for example, the Fire Department of New York, the Fire Department of New York has an annual budget much more than that of the Nigerian police that is supposed to police over 180 million people, which I don't even agree that we are 180 million people. I believe that we are much more than that. We just haven't been able to count ourselves properly. And now you ask, from the information I have right now, there are roughly about 400 and something thousand police officers in Nigeria. And a huge part of them are for protection of the executive. You know, they protect VIPs, leaving quite maybe about 300,000 or even less to police 180 million people. So they cannot do magic. It's not feasible to have that number of police these people. We need to not only fund the police properly, we need to find a way to make the appointment of the IG independent. Maybe it needs to go through confirmation and make it impossible that the president can remove the IG at will, or a situation whereby the removal of IG has to be through impeachment through the National Assembly. As long as the president appoints the Inspector General Police and can remove the Inspector General Police anytime he chose, the police will continue to dance to the tone and dictates of the president and the executive branch of government. And as long as they do that, the bad perception they have will continue even until that is changed. Now,
No, sorry. Are you saying that much of the bad perception of the police can be attributed to the role they play under the executive? Is that what you're saying?
correct. Part of it is, but if you look at, for example, what happened at the Senate yesterday. Now, what a lot of Nigerians are saying today is that the police did not act because there was an order from above. And who is that above? Okay, the above is the executive branch. So with that kind of stuff now, Nigerians are already forming, opinions. And that's where the perception problem, the possession problem that they have. So that is over interference of the executive branch of government on the affairs and policing of this country.
There's been a debate for quite some time about the structure of the police. Some have been advocating for state policing. Others, I will let you come back to it because you also experience the difference between the federal police in the U.S. and the state police.
Correct, and even the county.
And even the county police, and even the what do you call
it? Cities.
Municipal police in
the municipal.
UK.
What is the debate? Where's the debate rather?
Thank you very
Where
much.
it comes to the state and the federal police.
Okay, let me deepen this discourse a little bit beyond semantics. First, Nigerians, both the led and the leaders, must agree to make Nigeria work. There has to be that consensus. You see, the policemen you see are products of the society. They didn't drop from outer space. They are products of the society. And a society deserves the kind of government it gets, as well as security agencies it gets to. A country that cannot effectively operate a centralized police force, such as we have in Nigeria today, cannot also likely operate a state police without skewing it to to bring up the same challenges we are facing today with decentralized police. So, before you go to issue of state police or even decentralizing the structure, the intent of this police force, according to the constitutional framework for provisions, must be achieved to its fullest first. The Nigerian police force as it is today must be stretched to its best possible limits. And then when there are gaps, you can now create new structures to fill in the gaps. If you jump from this straight to the issue of state police or county or local government police, you are simply decentralizing the same problems at the center, at the subnational levels. Now, as newspaper columnists, as public affairs analysts, we've always advocated for value reorientation, and I've said this, we are all losers, governors, presidents, ministers, senators, and ordinary citizens like us. We are all losers under this system. It's in our best interest to allow the police force to work firmly, to work fully, to work well. It's in our best interest to stop political control over security forces, because public office, especially elected ones at the executive level, is temporary. Maximum you spend 8 years as a governor. Now, the system you have helped to evolve into a monster, for example, while you enjoy it in 8 years, outside that office for the rest of your lives, you can become a victim of that same system. But if you allow the police force to work independently, to work well for the people, government's about the people, you take it to the people, you made the security agencies work for the people, you retire from public office and become a beneficiary of this system. So at this point, we don't have a choice. We either reform or even remain permanently deformed. So the question is not about whether state police or federal police. However, I also agree that at a point, no matter how well the federal police is working, there will be need to decentralize police because of the peculiarities of the different component parts of the country.
Yes.
Now, but first, there should be, for me, I expect a period of, an intermediary period between full autonomous decentralized police force and what we have now. And that will be this. State governments must allow the federal police and police commissioners in their states today to work to the best of their capacities without political interference. That must endure for a long time first, before they can be trusted with full autonomy under the control of the governors. You cannot jump from this system now to that. As I said earlier, it's just decentralizing the same problem from the center to the subnational level.
Okay, let's look at that. Be that as it may, the former commissioner of police, FCT, must have had instances, many,
Of course.
where someone came to you or somebody called you at the middle of the night that they were thrown in jail because they owed some money to somebody. So a civil matter becomes a police matter. How have you dealt with that? I mean, how did you deal with that during the time that you were in office? And where did this whole thing go wrong, where we cannot separate civil from criminal?
See, the rules are there. As a professional police officer, every crime you have to identify what element constitutes an offense, what element constitutes a criminal offense, and what element constitutes a civil offense, a civil matter that makes it civil. As a police officer at the counter, at the first point of a complaint is brought to you, you have to analyze it and see what the criminal element of that report.
Any Honorable Commissioner, please just hold your thought. I'd like to take a quick break. Mr. Commissioner, you were talking about the various laws and things in the books that no one is following. Please take it over.
Like I was saying, you see, right from the basic training of a police officer, from the recruit training, you are taught the criminal law. What offenses constitute, what elements are considered an offense. For instance, like stealing, for instance. Somebody comes and said, somebody stole my thing. Like now the maize that is being was stolen from the Senate,
in broad daylight.
at least it must have value. That property must have an ownership.
Right.
You must be the owner of that property. It must have value, and you took with intention to deprive the owner of that property. These are the elements of constitutional offense. If whatever report the company bring to the police station and it don't contain the criminal elements, every police officer who is properly trained and they want to be professional will say this matter is refused civil. You have authority to do that and advise the parties, please go and take civil action on the matter. Go and seek civil.
But you will agree with me that doesn't happen.
No, it happens. It happens. We don't have to generalize.
Yeah.
Like in every institution, there are bound to be deviants. Even among the 12 disciples, there was a deviance. So that the standard, the professional standard, the procedure is that when there are cases when you can refuse a case either civil, vexatious, malicious, at a counter. Maybe somebody probably just made a statement based on anger to either to make just a false allegation against somebody. Look at it, the facts are clear. You have the authority to decide and make and advise the person accordingly. So the issue of whether matter is civil or criminal, I think the points are very, very clear. The facts are very, very clear. And a police officer who is worth his salt be able to identify a matter that is civil matter and advise the parties accordingly.
But what we say, I mean, there are a lot of instances where people are locked up and they have to be bailed. I think when you now delve into the matter, you'll find out that the old Mr. JYZ and the police officer was brought in and he hauled the other person to jail.
Yeah, you see, sometimes again, a complainant comes and magnifies issues, tells lies and so forth.
But isn't that where the police initiative comes in?
It is now, what now happens now, what will now reveal the facts is the investigation. It's no investigation that will reveal the fact, because you cannot at that point in time, when just ab initio, the report is made to you, just conclude that it is civil, except the facts reveal themselves because you asking questions, what happened this, who did that and so forth, where did that happen and so forth. But it's only what will actually reveal the facts is investigation will reveal the facts. To say whether that matter is civil or it is criminal.
I'm happy that you brought up the issue of the fact that during the recruitment stages,
yes,
and the training,
yes,
they are taken through certain laws,
yes,
of policing,
definitely,
or purely, laws of the land,
laws, yes,
governing policing.
Because you need to know the law to be able to enforce the law.
To be able to enforce the law.
Yeah.
Then we can now take a step back. Captain, you have experienced where the police has gone astray in many cases in Nigeria.
Correct.
Can you probably discern between your experiences in America, the so-called democracy that we're seemingly emulating, and what is going on here in Nigeria today?
Okay. It's very unheard to find a military man in the United States carrying a weapon in any community in the United States. It's simply not our responsibility. That is the responsibility of the police. For my 17 years of service, I've never carried my weapon outside the military barracks. It doesn't happen. They stay there in the armory, okay? Because I have no business carrying weapon in the society. Now, what is happening in Nigeria is because of the failure of the police to maintain law and order. Then we now have military coming to do their job, like we have all explained here. And my friend here, he mentioned something about decentralizing police. If you decentralize it, it's like you're decentralizing the same problem at the center to the various components of the federation. I tend to disagree to some extent because I've been one of those ardent campaigners for state policing. Because I'm looking at this whole, what is happening in the police is not unique to the police. There's a problem with our federal structure. Our federal government is grossly over-bloated with over 600 federal agencies, gulping over 3 trillion naira in overhead expenses, that it has become very ineffective and inefficient. Look, the ineffectiveness is not unique to the police. It's not only the police. Most of the federal agencies are very ineffective. because of the bogus nature of our federal structure. So what we are saying is that, look, we need to devolve some of these responsibilities to the states and the local government, leaving the federal government to perform oversight and regulatory functions. So what we are asking, we are advocating is a heavily regulated, decentralized police. Because of the uniqueness of our culture, because of the uniqueness of our country, it's quite difficult for you to get someone from Borno State, train him as a policeman, and you not send him to Bayelsa State, where he has no understanding of the culture or even the language of that place. Because policing is a very, very complicated profession. You need to understand the culture for you to even have the psyche of trying to decipher, crimes in that society.
Commissioner, you made a statement earlier about the complete integration of the Nigerian police, which he's now saying it's not really the best.
Yeah, you see, the Nigerian police force, this policy of state policing, it was a bit of it was being practiced in 1989. From the rank of inspector to DSP, you were asked to go back to your state. I was in my own hometown, Ikom, right? I was divisional crime officer of my town. But they found out that in most cases, except you are a man who is principled, in most cases, you'll be influenced too. So you're a man who is in principle, you'll be influenced. Because they'll say, oh, so you're the one today, you are the one sending to come and arrest me today. You will not have that, you will not be able to come out to police effectively.
Let him speak to that. You understand clearly where he's coming from.
Yeah, I understand where he's coming from. Look, we are in a democracy and we are in a federal system of government. Mm-hmm. Now, you cannot ask a people to go and govern themselves, and you don't ask them to secure themselves. You don't do that. If you look at the structure of the United States, because you've said I wear two hats, you look at Georgia, for example, which is my home state, very autonomous. They have their own police, completely autonomous, make their own decision. Because when you ask the people to go and govern themselves, they should be able to secure themselves. We have state assemblies in every state of this country, and they are making laws on daily basis. Who is enforcing those laws that they are making? They are supposed to have an enforcement agency, which in this case, their own state police, to be enforcing their own laws. Nigerian police is not enforcing state laws. When they go through their training, are they training them on how to enforce state laws in all the 36 states and the FCT? The commissioner is here. So who enforces the laws that are coming out of the various state house of assemblies in our country?
Majid.
We're in a federal structure. We're in a federal structure.
I want to hear an independent opinion. Hopefully it's independent.
I hope so too. Anyway, from the last point he made about enforcement of state laws, I also know that in the Constitution, for example, a lot of responsibilities are actually taken from the states and are largely placed with the federal government. And I'm also aware that the police force, the heads of the police force in each of these states, are supposed to enforce lawful or laws that are made that are not in contention or at variance with the Constitution. If a state makes, like for example, in FCT, environmental laws, I remember then, I have an environmental cleaning company. There was a law once in FCT that if you do not buy waste baskets, you'll be tried, and if you do not pay a certain fine, you'll be jailed. And it was enforced by the Nigerian Police Force. There was a time that in Abuja here, in FCT here, I'm sure, when you were commissioner, what do you call it? Okada.
We stopped it. I stopped
was
it.
banned by the FCT administration, and therefore the police force and the police command in FCT enforced it firmly. If I don't just the police, the army, road safety, civil defense, they do joint patrol to arrest people that are flouting such laws, for example. Now, the police force sometimes may not execute or enforce certain laws, also has to do with political influence, probably from above.
Mm. Just like
it's not because the police force is not empowered to do so. And I'm telling you that the same influence from above, if you decentralize the same police force today with the same attitude of political leaders, it will be done at the state level. Look, let me tell you something. I have a belief that Nigeria is not even a diverse country as we think. Because in my opinion, diversity is measured in terms of race, not ethnicity. Therefore, there's nothing wrong with a man from Borno taking a special interest as a police officer in Cross River State. Sure. Makes himself acquainted with the people, learns the language, and becomes a better policeman that police that community more than people that are born there because of his citizenship.
Look at the problem with that.
That's interesting.
Look at the
For
problem
example,
with that.
he is in Nigeria. He was born in Nigeria. I assume you were born in Nigeria.
Yes,
you served in the United States Army.
Correct.
Today you said Georgia is your community.
Yeah.
Your citizenship allows you to leave Nigeria, naturalize in the United States, serve in the army, and today you have an affiliation to the city of Georgia.
The state of
The
Georgia.
state of Georgia, rather.
Correct.
Now, we must begin to do that in Nigeria. You talk about the structure, for example. I've also said, look, we must restructure by forward integration. How do I mean, sir? Look, we are one people, and I keep saying this. We are one people. We are one race. We have so much in common than differences.
I agree with you.
I can tell you today, I'm from Kogi State, for example. And I can tell you Kogi is like a link, culturally, traditionally, historically, a link between the Northeast, the Northwest, the North Central, the Southeast, and the South-South.
I agree.
Through anthropological study, there's a link, which means I'm from Kogi. My cousins, if you take a sample of my DNA, you find my cousins in Katsina in Daura, you find some in Kwarafa area in Juku, you find some in Onitsha, you find some among the Urhobos. Therefore, we must begin to put our citizenship forward.
So what you're literally saying is that the issue of state policing based on ethnicity or based on regional affiliation,
Based on state.
based on statehood, is not necessarily
A solution to the problem.
a solution
You know
to
why?
the problem.
Because of ethnicity that divides me
No,
and
sorry, the
see,
commissioner wanted to say
you see,
something.
he made a statement earlier. I mean, he said that value orientation. You see, we don't have national core values in this country that we cherish and uphold. We don't. Because even this common saying that united we stand, divided we fall. I think state police will destroy this country. I say without equivocation, I served in for 35 years. See, I'm from Cross River State. Most of my life as a police officer, I served in the East, Southeast. And it's there that I'm being loved so much there because of the interest I took in doing my job. I mustn't come from, be an Igbo man to serve in Enugu. I mustn't be a Yoruba to serve in Ibadan. The point that if we have developed national consciousness, national values, like Trump would say,
But let me ask you a question, though.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Let's remove it from ethnicity.
It's not about ethnicity.
Isn't it
It's
possible?
residency.
No, hang on.
Yeah.
Isn't it possible
Yeah.
that for administrative and effective policing,
Yeah.
that managing in small numbers will make it more effective? In essence, what I'm saying, if you have the state police,
But let me ask
hang on. If you
Yeah.
have the state police,
Yeah.
regardless as to whether
What do you
The
mean?
policeman-
What is state police, for instance?
State
Because
police-
in each state today, in each state of Nigeria today, that their police are functioning with the commissioner of police.
No, okay, I understand what you're
the
saying.
origins of that
but the
state-
authority,
origins of that state-
he just made a statement earlier that, or were you the one that made a statement that there are laws which are passed by the state which
I
are not
said
being
it.
enforced
Correct.
by the police?
Not at all.
And we said,
No,
we said there are also so many laws that are passed by states
Yes.
that are being enforced by the police force. And those that are not being enforced at the state level has to do with political interference from above the state level.
Let me-
For example, the anti-open grazing law in Benue,
correct.
I'll tell you something. That has to do with political interference from above. That has prevented the police force from implementing it. But I'll tell you something too in the same Benue.
Hold your fire.
Let me-
Before
let me
you
say-
tell
let
him
me- let
anything,
me- let me-
before you
let me
tell him
play a
anything,
point.
let's have a quick. We'll have a quick break. We're going to be right back. There is no one who ever comes to Nigeria that is not faced with a problem of saying, look, whenever you get to a police post,
whether it's a traffic junction or whatever, where you have police officers, they tend to extort money from you. And then, and I'm sure, Mr. Commissioner, you can help us here. They say somehow these police officers are expected to pass on whatever it is that they collect to people like you and even all the way to the Inspector General of Police. So clear that up for us, because it's out there. Everybody says whatever extortion that the policeman gets from you, it goes up the ladder.
You see, issue of corruption in Nigeria permeates all aspects of our life in Nigeria. Whether it's civil service, whether it's police, whether it's the military, whether it's it permeates our life. We live in religious institutions. See, the point is that why the policeman's own is probably being magnified because the police is seen every on the street. The police today, how many police officers have jets? How many police officers have mansions in Asokoro and Mitama? How many? You see, the police are the poorest paid institution in this country.
We're coming to.
And then you see, the issue of corruption. Every segment of society is corrupt in this country. This question of holier than thou philosophy. Oh, you are pointing a finger, you are corrupt, I'm not corrupt. If you see what every facet of the Nigerian society is corrupt, I see it unequivocally. Because you see, the policeman is there to do his duties. Because it's on the road, and you see maybe you give him 20 naira or 10 naira or 15 naira whatsoever. He is there to serve you. And when he's serving you, what we should do to appreciate the police, not just always trying to run them down. You see, even if for instance, if you go to the United States or UK, if you enter a lift, I was in Boston. After I was carried somewhere, my luggage carried to my room, the porters told me, you're not giving my tip. He asked me. That date is called tip.
That is not corruption.
No, wait. No, he asked me. No, I'm not giving an example.
Okay.
From the car, my luggage to my room. After dropping from the lift, he asked me, gentlemen, you're not doing my tip.
You're saying that is a culture.
Good.
Okay.
It's good.
It's a culture of tipping.
Good.
So it's understood.
That is culture of reward. It is culture of reward.
No, hang on. Are you saying that now? The police. I want to speak to that now.
Commissioner, don't cut me. Let me.
I'm not cutting you. But if you are saying that everyone is corrupt, so therefore it is.
No, I'm not saying.
I want to clear something about this.
I'm not saying it's a good thing that works. It is something. It is sad. Social problem in this country. The cleansing should come from the top down. And with this question of this holier than thou mentality should not exist.
So do you, what you're saying now, are you agreeing with the extortion theory of the public?
No, the extortion theory.
Yeah.
Not all people, not every, like I said.
Because there are some people who are detained or delayed for almost half an hour. I had an experience. I'll tell you
I said in all institutions.
No, I got you. But
yes.
I had an experience where I think I was coming back from Benin one time.
Yeah.
I was driving. I was stopped by the SARS gentleman.
Yeah.
And there's no amount of grammar that I didn't speak. They kept me there for almost an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Eventually,
yes.
they let me go. And I won't tell you what I had to do.
What did you do?
What did I have to do? It's exactly what we're discussing.
Yeah.
What other people did. Okay? So the truth of the matter is, where does the buck stop? If the police, who is supposed to protect the public, if the police, who is supposed to police the kind of immorality that we're talking about, the corruption and all that, if they themselves cannot be put to order, where is it going to start? You say it has to start from the very top.
Like he said earlier, the Nigerian police force didn't come from the moon.
No, we understand.
Good. the society, environmental, I'm a sociologist and anthropologist too.
Right.
You see, the society itself, the culture of the society affects your attitude and behavior.
Let me allow Captain.
It's a problem that permeates all aspects of our society.
But
what we should now do, how do we check it?
That is exactly.
That's the fight that is going on for all of us.
That is part of why we're talking here.
Let me clear up a few things here. I agree. There's corruption in every facet of our country. But let me tell you, the police is the backbone of every democracy. If you don't get the police right, every other place is going to fall apart.
I think I tend to agree with you.
Are you listening to me? Until the police is able to arrest a senator, prosecute him, convict him, and put him in prison without fear of intimidation, the country will continue to derail. Now, there was an issue he mentioned about tip. Tip is illegal in the United States because if you look at the wage policies of some states in America, those who work in entertainment industries don't have the same minimum wage as people who work elsewhere. The reason because the tipping is incorporated there. You have to pay, for example, if you go to a restaurant and eat, you have to pay 8% of whatever the cost of your meal is for tipping. So it's legal because they collect the lowest minimum wage in America. That is not the case with our police. So we cannot equate any of those.
Are they properly well remunerated?
No, wait. I'm going to bring that up now.
Now, I'm going back to the issue of state policing. I'm not talking about state policing in terms of ethnicity. I'm talking about in terms of residency. Now, there was a time I attempted to even join Tempe Police Department in Phoenix when I was a student there. I wasn't a citizen of Arizona, but because I was a resident there, I was qualified to do so. You can come from Kano. You can come from anywhere. If you're a resident in a place, you should be able to join the police force because you need to understand the place. Some policemen because I reside in Lawrenceville, outside north of Atlanta, and Lawrenceville has its own police department. Most of these police officers have lived in the city of Lawrenceville for 30, 40 years. So they understand every nooks and cranny of Lawrenceville. And that is what we are that's what we are saying now. What you see in Nigeria is you see a policeman will come out of training and he's posted to a particular place. By the time he begins to understand the dynamics of the place where he is posted, he is now transferred to a new place where he now starts a new orientation in that particular place. And police is not a job that you do like that because crime is very, very, very complicated. So you need to understand your terrain very, very well.
So that speaks also to community policing.
For you to be able to decipher the problems that are in the community.
We try to get the police information. Is the information officer the police spokesman?
The first PRO.
We were unable to. We wanted him to speak to the police reformation because you hear about all these reformation from one IG to the other, but it looks like the faster they run, the slower they get. They seem to be spinning their wheels on one spot. Why is it not working? Apart from the low wages, apart from some of the issues, apart from the funding, why is it not working?
Again, I'll go back to my earlier position. I'm trying to go to the foundation of this problem so that we can know where the rain began to beat us. There's no democracy without politics. But politics must be done with patriotism. And patriotism here means an acknowledgement, an effort, a deliberate effort by the political class to make the Nigerian police work for the Nigerian people, according to the intention of its constitutional establishment. Otherwise, no reform can work. I said something earlier. I said, look, people must realize that if you make the police force work when you are in government, when you leave government, you become a beneficiary of the system you helped put in place.
Of course.
If you stock the fire of the current establishment to burn ragingly because it benefits you temporarily, you can become victim of this same thing this monster you have helped create.
You see, listen, gentlemen, if we're going to achieve anything on this particular program, let's call a spade a spade.
Yes.
the Nigerian policing is not working. Not because you don't have some of the lofty programs that the IGs are all introducing, but because the will is not there.
It's not, let me tell you, the police force.
Am I right?
Yes, but look, the men and officers of the police force are victims
of the system.
Of the system itself.
Victim of the system.
Look, corruption, you see. The Nigerian police force did not introduce corruption. No, that are they promoting corruption. They are victims of a bigger form of corruption that has made them rely on corrupt means to sustain their livelihood.
For instance, let me tell you, you ask a police officer, maybe there's a distress call somebody calls, maybe a robbers have attacked him and so forth. He calls the police. The policeman is on duty. Land Rover, there's no fuel. And then what are you expecting to do? Will you come to fly? Because it's not being funded. So if that, like you said, the police are a victim of a defective system. And I'm telling you that today, they think militarizing policing is the solution. No solution. The problem is being compounded. Because the military, making the military involved in policing and law enforcement is very dangerous to this country.
No, I mean, by the way, the military cannot be a solution to policing.
It's not even working.
They're not trained
to police.
Despite the 28, they're present 28 states, Nigeria is
still in chaos.
Isn't more than even before.
Yes. Look, I've been a soldier. I don't police. That's not my responsibility. Even when we were in Iraq and the entire police force collapsed and removed their uniform and disappeared, they tried as much as they could to utilize soldiers to police the society. We just couldn't do it. The United States had to fall back to bring in trained police officers to come to Iraq and police the people. Because it's not my job.
They're trained on intelligence gathering?
They're trained to do policing. I'm trained to be a soldier. Right. You shoot and you kill.
That's it.
You see?
So as long as we continue, because let me tell you, we're just dancing around the issues. The amount of money that is being invested in defense, in the military, if you channel half of that money properly into the police, you can get them some of the relevant equipment that they need to do their job. And we need to, even if we're not going to have state police, but we cannot continue with 400 police officers to police 180 million people.
400,000.
400,000 to police 180 million people. We're asking them to do magic, which they cannot do.
But
so we have to expand. Right. For us to expand to even have one police officer to 100 citizens, we need to have at least 1.8 million police officers in Nigeria, just to get the ratio of one officer to 100 citizens.
You used, you gave an example earlier about the amount of money.
Yes.
That a county basically.
Correct. Just a fire department of a county.
How that particular amount is higher than the entire budget of the Nigerian police.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, there are the issues of wages. How do we begin to address that in a manner that will give some comfort to say these problems can be resolved somehow?
I can answer that.
Yes.
Okay. You see, policing is based on needs, and budgeting is also based on needs. For instance, in a police division, for instance, let's say Maitama, for instance, how many patrol vehicles do they need in Maitama to be effectively respond to distress call, maintain law and order, prevent crime, and maintain law and order? How many? The police need to tell you, this is what I need. But later, Minister of Defense, Minister of Finance will tell you, will give you, with the request, maybe request budgeted for 20 vehicles in Maitama, they give you 2. And you cannot complain. The complaint goes to go to her. What do? You only have to work on what you have. The police itself, like I said, is the victim of a defensive system. Outside the shores of this country,
right.
I was in charge of federal operations,
right.
in charge of peacekeeping of Nigerian police for 5 years. And outside the shores of this country, we excel, we perform excellently very well. We are the best in the world. But here, because the system itself is defective, the police is being starved of funds, police are under-trained, police are under-equipped, and the system is unnecessary political control. They are being caged. The police officer is not given the freedom to apply the discretion and the wisdom he has in policing. So one is that the police need to be properly funded, properly trained, even though our process of recruitment do not need to be addressed, because today, if there's any recruitment, you see lists from from the villa, this from the Senate, this from minister, this from this. Only those that the IG has to budge and approve those lists.
Thank you.
You don't even go into getting the right caliber of people that you want to get.
Thank you, Commissioner Alobi. Our 1 hour just flew away like that. I think we're starting a series on Nigerian policing. I would like to invite you back. You can say that we've barely scratched the surface.
Absolutely. No, we have not.
You see, there's so many angles of it, the different divisions of the police, the EFCC, the SARS, etc. We want to know very clearly what it will really take for all these different factions of the police to be more effective. So, thank you, Commissioner Alobi, Captain Bish, and Majid. Think you very much. We look forward to a follow-up of this particular episode.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A pleasure.
Thank you.
Ultimately, making our boys in uniform happy with reasonable welfare package and then improving their conduct will help any plan to reform Nigeria Police for effective 21st century policing. There is also a very thorny issue of reforming Nigeria Police to true federal structure that exists in the United States, from where Nigeria copied her federal government system. In this system, the federal government had its own law enforcement agencies, such as the FBI, and then every state has its own autonomous system, and even the counties and cities within the state have their own police systems, such as Houston Police and Dallas Police Department in the state of Texas. This topic is big enough for a whole edition of its own, and that is exactly what we shall do in our next summit on Nigeria Police Matters. Until then, thank you for watching, and bye for now.